Welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I am your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak with the brilliant and creative people who make the greatest coming attractions, movie posters, and digital campaigns of all time. And sometimes we get to speak to people who are around the industry, and that's a lot of fun too. That's what we'll be doing today. This program is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards, which as we're recording this, you'll be hearing this a little bit later, but we're recording it the day after. So forgive me if I sound a little bit hungover. There's only, I can neither confirm nor deny the rumors of drinking and rabble-rousing having happened. But it was a good time last night. This program is also brought to you by Brent Allen Hagel. You know him as Trailer VO Brent. That was a terrible imitation, I'm sorry. But you know Brent, he's the best. We are also brought to you by Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. And today, I am so pleased to be joined by Jonny Elwyn. Jonny Elwyn is a freelance film editor and writer living and working in London. Jonny edits for a diverse range of clients, and he's also a writer who's had pieces on sites like premiumbeat.com, rocketstock.com, frame.io, Red Shark News, among others. He's also the author of the book, How to Be a Freelance Creative, so I might have some questions about that. And of course, he recently launched the newsletter, This Week in Movie Trailers, TWIMT. Jonny, thanks so much for joining me today, man. How you doing?
Great, thanks, Corey. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure to be here. I've been listening for a long time to these
that's cool.
Amazing trailer editors you have on, and feeling very jealous of their abilities.
Oh, man. Yeah, some great people. I got to see a bunch of folks last night. And it's always good to be among. If I can manage not having a panic attack in big spaces with lots of people and loud noises, my brain still tweaks out a little bit. But it really was nice to see so many good people from the industry. So that was fun.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like I remember David Fincher's sound editor. His name now escapes me, but he was saying if you just get nominated, that's the win because you're nominated by your peers.
Yeah.
In so many awards systems. So hopefully it's a good night. It sounds like it should be a good night.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. It's a little overwhelming too because there are so many people. I look around and I see like people who've become like genuinely dear friends, and it just reminds me. When I left, I was starting to make a list of like, oh, I got to go catch up with I got to go catch up with Wayne. I got to catch up with Brian. I got to catch up with Helen. I got to catch up with Sohini. It's just like I made the list. So I as soon as I was leaving, just to remember, because there's folks that I just have so many people I have a genuine admiration and respect for, and it's really nice just spending some one-on-one time with them too. So that's cool. But a lot of folks may not be familiar with you yet in our little industry. So I'd love to learn more about your career because as I mentioned in the intro, you're both a writer, you're a busy editor, you've been at it a while. So, what initially got you started down this path?
I got into editing because I went to film school in London, and everybody wanted to be a director, and basically it seemed like a lot of work. So I thought maybe I'll be an editor instead, where you have almost as much power and less than half the work. So. I basically kind of fell into editing because ultimately at the end of the day, it's just you and the director in a room. So then you get to shape things and have an input. And it just kind of worked from how my brain works, I think, in terms of visually and that kind of stuff. So then I have been a freelance video editor my entire career. I've never had a salaried position anywhere. I've always been freelance, which I wouldn't change for anything. I love having control over my own time. I've been a freelance video editor in London, editing all kinds of stuff, like lots of corporate stuff and charity stuff, like the TV commercial, music videos, documentaries, online content, everything and anything. So, and a few trailers along the way, which is always a ton of fun. So that's kind of my background in a nutshell of kind of getting into editing. With writing, I kind of fell into that by accident as well, in that probably about 15 years ago, I started a blog about post-production stuff, mostly because I kept sending my friends links to things that I was finding online that I thought were cool and useful. And they were just like, just start a blog like everyone else. Stop emailing us all these links. So I started a blog, and then other people on other sites kind of read it and thought I was okay writing. So then I ended up writing for their sites as well. So I kind of now do both of those things kind of I guess, full time in terms of freelance video editing and freelance writing about post-production for my own sites and other sites too.
So the writing came along a little bit later. I'm curious about the freelance because freelance is hard to pull off for a lot of folks, but it sounds like you work on a diverse range of projects, from long form to short form, online. Is that the secret to staying busy freelance wise, or is it maybe are some folks better at staying busy if they have a specific specialty, or maybe there's room for all of the above?
I think there's room for the above. I think the main thing is just being able to stay in the game long enough that it gets easier, because the more you've been around, just by the nature of things, the more clients you've ended up working for, the more other editors you've connected with. So one of the things I've always thought is that your competition is actually your best community. So rather than thinking about other editors as like being in competition with you and they're going to steal your jobs or take your jobs or undercut you, actually the more other editors you can know and you can give work to, or they can give work to you, then you instantly exponentially expand your network. Because if you know one editor and you share work between you, then all of their connections become all of your connections and vice versa. So building up a network of other editors who are there when they're busy, they recommend you, when you're busy, you recommend them, has probably been the most helpful thing. And yeah, just kind of being able to be around long enough that 20 years in, there's usually somebody who wants something at some point. And if not, then having a flexible second income. So the writing side of things has been a huge help, because then when I'm not editing, then I can pick up a piece of writing, do that, and that's much more flexible. And ever since having kids, it's much easier to get interrupted, write a paragraph, get interrupted, come back 45 minutes later, write another paragraph, get interrupted. Whereas with editing, you kind of need to sit and just do the hours for the whole day to kind of focus. So yeah, all of those things I think have been helpful in my experience. But I think it's such a diverse industry. It's so different for everyone depending on what they're doing and where they're working.
It's an interesting insight to say that your competitors, to not think of it as a zero sum game, but your competitors, the other folks that are also freelance editing, for example, can be your greatest source of work. I was reading an article today actually that there are some folks who can only see the world as a zero sum game, and if you eat a part of my pie, then that's my pie and you're eating it. Whereas a lot of others have. Listen, I mean, there's definitely a sense of competition, among the best trailer editors, for example. But there's like a lot of them just like look at it like, wow, that was really cool. I wish I finished that one, but like it inspires them and gets them, maybe feeds them some ideas on what they're working on, and drives them a little harder to maybe get to finish on the next one. And it's in a way that competition feeds sort of a collective collaboration in a way. But yeah, you're right. Some others look at it as like, like I said, like zero sum. So I'd rather be the, collaborative, healthy competition kind of a guy. And it sounds like that's really helped your career as well.
Yeah, but I guess with trailers, it's a specific, as far as I understand it, how that part of the industry works specifically, it is like there's a sort of systemic nature of competition, because they'll get multiple houses to be cutting the same show, right? And then choose whichever one they want out of that, and that one is the one that finishes. So there's inherently going to be quote unquote winners and losers. But whereas I guess, yeah, with other things, if somebody wants to hire an editor like me, and I know another editor who is like me, then they'll want to hire that person. So our matching skill sets help us expand our networks, I guess. But yeah, I guess it's like, if there's always that thing of like healthy competition, I guess, where if someone is inspiring you to try harder, work a bit longer, have better ideas, or have a crazier idea, then that I guess can push you to do better things.
Sure thing. Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm curious about the writing side. It sounds like that's a good stream of income for you. How did you build? Is it the blogs and subscriptions that you've been able to build up?
So it started with the blog. I just was literally writing a blog because I wanted to write about post-production, and every time I needed to research a piece of gear or something that I wanted to buy, then I would just do it. Because also I can't buy anything without deeply researching. Is this the best one? Is this the one that's the best value for money? Has it got the best features? Is it, all this sort of stuff, which drives my wife crazy, because she's just like, just buy the Dustbuster. It doesn't matter if it's the best one or not, just buy it. So so then I would write up this research, and then a friend of mine who worked in kind of online marketing was like, "Oh, you should add Amazon links. You should add Amazon affiliate links." And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And so every time someone clicks on a link in my blog, it takes them to Amazon, and they buy the thing that I'm recommending, or they buy a pair of socks or some dog food. Then you get a small cut of that kind of as a commission for sending the traffic, which back in the day used to be a lot more than it is now. Which is just the nature of how affiliate systems work. They kind of eventually squeeze you as you go along. But yeah, and with the writing, it was kind of so the guys at Premium Beat, when they were kind of growing, Premium Beat wanted to build out the blog as a kind of SEO way to drive traffic. So then they would hire me to write a post, and there was just like a set fee per post. So and that led to other sites also hiring me to write. So that kind of thing helps to have a flexible second income that is also still related to what you're doing. So I think if you're going to build a flexible second income, it has to be I've written a blog post about it, but like has to be kind of elastic. It has to be what's the other ones? Elastic, flexible, and like related. Like it has to be like there's no point, I don't know, having a second income that's window cleaning if it's not actually what you want to be doing. So
Wait, so hold on. Did you know that I own a window cleaning company?
you do,
Yeah, yeah.
which makes it an awesome second business because I have a friend who got into window cleaning, and he said it's like so easy to grow it because there's so many bad window cleaners, right? Like,
There are. Yeah, yeah,
and if you
yeah. In
just
fact, we started. So I own a few businesses. It's random that we're getting into this, but since you brought it up,
okay,
so in 2010, excuse me, 2008, we had a serious economic recession,
yeah,
the Great Recession they called it, right? And that affected my main business, the headhunting business, Nathan McDonald and Rose, very significantly. We had as much as a 70 to 75% correction
oh
in
wow,
our annual revenue. And when you're going down, you don't know if you're going to zero. So my brother was working with me at the time, and we just looked at each other like, hey, we still got to pay the mortgage. What can we
yeah,
do to create another revenue stream? And he and I had a local window cleaning company in New Jersey when we were kids, when we were teenagers. So we were like, why don't we just start a freaking window cleaning? There's plenty of glass up in our neck of
yeah,
the woods, and we know how to do it. It didn't require $1 million to start the company. Um, Nobody was dominating the market. So it satisfied a few things that I was looking for. Specifically, I was looking for something where every time we earned a customer, we could earn the right to come back to that customer, right? Whether it was like a weekly storefront that we were doing, a big commercial building that we were doing, or the semi-annual times that we were going to houses. And so it was very appealing in that regard. And that was in 2010 that we started that company. We're still doing it. My
wow,
brother's not with the company. He went, he went some other routes, but yeah, but I hired a buddy initially as a salesman in 2012, 13, 14, who's still with the company. He's a GM. He's a partner now, and he does everything. He calls me about once a week. He's like, "Hey, we got to pay a bill." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, but that's been a great business. And then there's this other. Sorry, I don't know.
no, okay, I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely interested. This is my
Um,
kind of thing I
so about a
love.
year ago, two buddies of mine, other small business owners here in my neighborhood, Santa Cruz Valley, we were just sitting around saying like, man, there's a lot of guys in town who know how to wash cars really well, but they don't know how to run a damn business. Like they don't show up on time, they don't have good quality control. There's certain things. So a couple of whiskeys and 2 hours later, we decided to start a mobile detailing business. So, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, and that's it also had a lot of the same appeal that it didn't require a ton of cash to get into. Nobody was dominating the market. A lot of people love getting their cars washed. We knew how to grow and manage a business, hire good people, train good people. Actually, my middle kid is he's the main technician, and I
Oh
didn't
wow.
get him the job. I swear I didn't get him the job. I asked my partners. I said the only favor I'm going to ask you is to give Jackson the interview, but he has to legitimately earn the job and keep the job on his own merits. And the other favor I asked them is if he does, I ask you to treat him like a grown up. So if he fucks it up, he's got to suffer the consequences. So
Yeah, yeah.
he's been with the company since day one, and he's even doing. So there's a couple of friends in the trailer industry that have been really, really that gave us a shot, and like I said, he's doing great. They love Jackie Boy, and he comes back every week and does a bunch of cars at
Amazing.
some of my best friends in the industry. So,
You should
uh,
start a YouTube channel. There's a big YouTube section for car detailing.
oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. There's people who have huge channels just detailing cars, and it'd be like, here's a barn find that we found. It's like, got a rat's nest in the engine, and they just clean it up. I mean,
Oh man.
they don't get the car going, but they just make it look exceptionally clean and tidy, and kind of reveal how they, handle the leather or how they do this or that sort of stuff. So,
I should
um,
talk to the fellas about that. I'm sure Jackie
people,
Boy would be really into it.
yeah, it's good
Um,
marketing, and it's like people love a before and after. Like it's a simple. Like there's also guys who do like power washing where they just will power wash someone's house for free or their gun for free because they need the content for their
yeah.
YouTube channel more than they need the money from like power washing the house. So, and often they'll try and find something where it's like, you can't even see the pavement because it's so overgrown or whatever, and they'll just do a before and after of like how they power washed it.
That would be a really interesting growth, like a stretch for me because I've been running Scan Media, my podcast company, since 2018 or 2019,
Yeah.
and just this year, about a little less than a year ago, we started doing video for our we have a one of our shows is a politics show, so we just started doing video. So I'm learning that I'm learning a lot more about that, but that would be an interesting kind of exercise for us all to maybe
Hmm.
see what we can do in that regard.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really great idea. I might want to talk to you some more about that.
Yeah, you should do it. You should do it. I mean, it's people want to watch it, and they also just want to know, like, yeah, how did they clean this thing or that thing? And then if you get a name for yourself, people come back. So,
Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by Soundstripe. So if you're an editor, a producer, a creative exec, a music supervisor, or even a podcaster like me, if you're a content creator of all stripes, if you will, and you're looking for the perfect library of music and sound effects, check out Soundstripe. With over 10,000 high quality tracks, including music from Grammy winning artists, Soundstripe makes music licensing hassle free. Believe me, I've tried it. I've been on there, I've navigated around. It was really terrific. It was really easy to use. So, with a simple subscription, you get unlimited access to a vast catalog, downloadable stems for creative flexibility, and AI song editing to customize tracks effortlessly. Plus, their seamless integration with Premiere, which is what most of my editor friends are on, it means a smoother editing experience. If you're ready to level up your production game with properly licensed, high quality music and sound effects, head over to soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and save 10% with code trailergeeks. That's soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and code trailergeeks. So, okay, so getting a little bit back on track here. So, I know the world has certainly gone through a lot over the last 5 years or so. Going back to pandemic, our industry, entertainment industry, especially LA, just this year, with the wildfires was a big, a big bump in the road, to say the least, especially for some, we know some people who've lost their homes. My
yeah,
pastor in
yeah.
Pasadena lost his home, one of the most well-respected and just revered creative executives, lost her home in Pacific Palisades. So we know people,
Oh, yeah.
but a couple of years before that, the writer strike and the SAG strike really affected the entire industry. I'm curious, from everything that's happened, how has that affected you and how have you gotten through it?
Well, I mean, so I feel very blessed that I'm kind of insulated from um, the kind of industry specific trends because of the stuff that I edit isn't kind of film or TV specific stuff. So, whereas I know like a lot of there's another dad who's on the school run who is also an editor, and he was hugely affected by the strikes in London just because of how global the industry is and how much like if like Netflix or other streamers also cut back on so much stuff, then it affects everybody. So luckily, he's just actually been on an Apple TV show doing 18 rounds of revisions. I think they've been going on it for a long time, which is great for him, but doing endless revisions. But I mean, during the pandemic, for example, the writing was super helpful because as it worked out, Avid got in touch with me during the pandemic because they wanted to do a whole bunch of like blog content, and so I ended up writing for them all during the pandemic, which was great, and even wrote like an ebook for them and different things. So because yeah, I think for me with the pandemic, a lot of the clients I had, there was definitely like a pause where everyone was like, how do we, what do we do? How do we do? And then people where they wanted a trailer for their event that they had coming up that was in person just wanted a trailer for the event that was online. And so I still kind of had things to do. But yeah, I mean, I've got lots of friends who work in film and TV and they've been hugely affected. And I think that whole thing of having a second income that you can like that's flexible in terms of when I say it's elastic, it's kind of like it
I
has
was
to
going
go
to
to
ask you about that. Yeah, what did you mean by elastic?
so it has to kind of fit to fill. So like when I've got like the trouble for me is like if I've got 4 or 5 things going, it's fine if they're all kind of like in rotation where one thing I'm editing a few days this week or I'm editing for a whole week next week, and then I've got a writing deadline, but it's 2 weeks away and all that kind of thing. But when the trouble is when they all come at once and it's like I've got to edit and then stay up at night writing because I've got to meet a deadline and that kind of thing. So the elastic thing is like, can you have a second income where you can do it as much as you need to do it when you need to do it? Like, can you fill up as much of your time with that thing as possible? So I guess like you were saying with your window cleaning, it's like, I guess if you're not busy in the car detailing business or not busy in your main, like the headhunting, then you've probably got some spare capacity to turn to one or other of the other businesses, but there is something to turn to because you've built that other business. Whereas if it's not elastic and it's like when you then get some editing work on, how do I then compress my second income so that I can, do you know what I mean? So like it being able to stretch and contract based on what I've got availability for and what I want to do, if that makes sense.
Right.
So the writing
How
is
do you
like,
stay disciplined though? I mean, because I know for me, every day I wake up and I have to sort of organize my thoughts and say, okay, what are we going to tackle today? Right. Um,
yeah. I
so
mean,
how do you stay disciplined and working diligently at everything that you have going on?
well, luckily when you're remote, no one can see what you're actually doing or not doing. So, but um, my work hours are often quite compressed in terms of just doing a lot of parenting, drop offs and pickups, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which at this season I'm really happy to do because I would rather invest a lot of time up front with my kids when they're young, when they're around, because as soon as they go to school and that kind of thing, then I'll see them, less and less and less. So just by the nature of how schooling works. So yeah, discipline. I mean, having to pay bills makes you just kind of prioritize whichever thing I can do will make the most money,
Yeah.
which helps focus the mind. But then at the same time, I have, like a million ideas for a million different businesses and a million different projects. And so I'll very much kind of, the discipline is not getting too excited about any one idea that I then give all my time to it. So when I was building This Week in Movie Trailers, I was just excited to see, can I make this system work? Can I build this thing? I've got this idea for it. Will it work? Well, then does anyone want to sign up for it? And so I just naturally kind of let a few of the other things I was supposed to be doing slide for a bit. And so I'm disciplined more and more as the end of the month rent payment comes up. So, but I also, it's the kind of thing where I think I'm quite like, I'm not a procrastinator. So as soon as I want to do something, I just get on
Yeah.
and do it. And I'm kind of pretty persistent in that, as I said at my wedding, in my wedding speech, it was like, it doesn't matter how slow you go, as long as you don't give up. And that was kind of like the story of getting together with my wife was like a long, arduous process in which I had to kind of beat her down and not into submission, but like persuade her that I was worth marrying and that she should be with me. But also I say it to myself when I'm going out for a jog these days as well. It doesn't matter how slow you go, as long as you don't give up. So I think, yeah, it's like some of the projects and ideas I've had for years and years, and I'm just slowly chipping away at them. But I think, as we were talking about before, I think parenting makes you probably a bit more patient, and you can only go as fast as you can go. And I've had to make my peace with that, I guess, in terms of I'd like to be going much faster at most things than I can actually do. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually really answered your question, but money and just not giving up, I guess, are the main drivers.
For sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. When I was younger, I wanted to do stuff like right away. And if I didn't see results, it would be just endlessly frustrating. But there have been a few endeavors like this one, where, starting a podcast or just the company and now having a few shows.
Mm.
I was more of the mindset of do something every day, right? So for my political podcast, when I was first inviting people to come on the show, I have no background in that world: politics, religion, academia, journalism. So all of these people, I'm just some Joe Schmo, that's reaching out and saying, "Hey, come on my stupid podcast." But what I said was, I'm going to invite one person every day, send one email invitation out every day. And what I was finding is a lot more people were willing to come on the show by doing that. Same thing, like I hadn't played piano in probably 20 years. And I just said, all I want to do is play scales. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to, when I started picking it back up, that's all I was doing is just something. And then I started being able to read a little bit more. And my fingers came back, the muscle memory maybe clicked back in, but just
Mm.
something a little bit every day. Um, so that's it's a really, I mean, that in itself is a discipline,
Yeah.
and the patience of just being, not even worrying too much about the results so much as the practice, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been really cool. By the way, how did you learn how to write? Is it just something that you had a knack for, or?
I guess so. I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's very interesting, as in with the advent of AI things recently, I've been able one of the things sometimes I'll do is throw something I've written into ChatGPT or Claude and say, evaluate my writing, like, give me feedback on whether how this comes across, whether the ideas make sense, whether they flow together, whether the language is interesting, and just get some feedback off of it that way. But I mean, I guess I must be good enough at writing that people wanted to hire me to do it, and I it's probably, I guess, like you're saying with practice. I mean, I was writing the blog, um, there's like hundreds of thousands of words on there in total over the years. So probably just by doing it enough times, and then I think the hardest. I mean, I think the way you get good at writing is by editing your own stuff, because you just see how to improve it. And if you just write something and press publish and then never come back to it, then you don't notice, like, yeah, how bad it is, or whether things flow, or whether you got interrupted and didn't actually connect the dots or something. Which I guess is the same with video editing. You're like connecting. I mean, video editing is effectively like writing. They call it the final rewrite, right? So the final rewrite. So there's just a way of, like, yeah, can you articulate a message through how you're putting things together? Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't really thought about how I learned it.
Well,
Just by
it sounds
doing it.
like, one, just get your reps in, you know,
Yeah,
just do it. But two is, yeah, to your point, editing your own stuff. I noticed that when I started editing these, I was worried that it'd be kind of like practicing a speech in front of the mirror, where it's not a
mm,
really good way to do it, because you can't be of two minds. You can't be judging yourself as you're actually doing it, right? Whereas if I'm listening to something that's already recorded, it's very much like just hearing another character, and I'm
mm,
able to be a lot more objective because it's already recorded.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's helpful. Same way when I read something that I write, it's already on the page, and now I can act as the editor of that writer's work, who happens to be me.
yeah, yeah,
So that's helpful. And then next time you enter into having to write something, you have that experience of having seen what you did, and maybe improving, by putting those two different hats on, going back and forth. So that makes a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
sense.
totally. I mean, there's uh what's his name again? Michael Lewis has a
Ooh,
masterclass about writing, and he says, like, write on caffeine and edit on wine. So he just likes to, like, and also he kind of
I love it.
he sets himself up to be, he often imagines that he's writing to his mum, because he knows that his mum will be the most receptive, warm, loving audience possible for anything he's writing as he's writing it. And then afterwards, he can come back and be a bit more cold-blooded about the editing process, because then he's, yeah, like you say, like treating it like somebody else wrote it, and then kind of refining it as he goes. I mean, recently I've read a couple of books about writing that were helpful, especially for the newsletter stuff. So there's one called Smart Brevity, which was basically written by these journalists who they write the Axios newsletters.
Oh, okay.
But they used to write for like the Wall Street Journal and big newspapers. And when everything moved from print to digital, in the print days, they write a 3,000 word think piece and think that people were reading it. And as soon as everything moved to digital, they'd be like, yeah, the data shows they only read the first 300 words, and then they just gave up. So, and it's like, oh, I need to be more concise.
Right.
So yeah, I've read a few things that I've then kind of practically applied, I guess, to make things more concise. I think one of the biggest takeaways was think, then type. Because often you just start typing to get your thoughts out, and then after that, you've actually could go back and write what you intended to write in the first place once you've kind of, but often what we do is, we just start typing, and as we're thinking, as opposed to think, what am I going to say, how am I going to say it, and then try and like type it out.
You're reminding me, I forget who the writer was, and I'm going to mess up how he describes it, but it must have been Pinter, somebody like that, when I'm sitting stone-faced, staring out the window, my wife just has never understood that that's actually when I'm working my ass off.
Exactly.
One of the coolest things about doing this program is I get to collaborate with friends of mine, not just friends, but friends who are the best at what they do, like my pal Brent Allen Hagel, Trailer VO Brent. Brent, how you doing, man?
Wonderful, Corey. And I think, critics and audiences would agree to that.
So do Trailer VO guys always talk that way, or do you ever break character?
Would never break character. Cocktail parties, they say, hey, can you do the voice thing for us while they all drink a beer?
Do you do the voice thing while you're drinking a beer?
I've never tried. I could probably win an award for that.
Oh, see, you're already breaking character, man. If we go on too long, you're going to start sounding like Gilbert Gottfried or something.
It'll be like this. Hey, yeah, it was the podcast that did it to me. Even.
All right. So before we hit it, we get back to the show. How can folks find you?
BrentAllenHagel.com, Brent, Allen, Hagel, Hagel.com on the interwebs and social media at Trailer VO Brent on social media.
It's a great follow. Thanks, Brent, and thanks for helping out. And now back to our show. So I'd love to ask you about this week in movie trailers. What sparked? I love it, by the way. So I'm getting the weekly emails, yeah, really just enjoying it and seeing what all our pals are up to, and seeing what's getting viewed the most, and it's really cool. So what sparked the idea?
So I've always loved movie trailers. I loved watching them, and I guess I was like noticing. I was trying to. I guess I just had the idea of like, could I build a system that would send me the 10 most watched trailers on the internet at any given time. So that's basically what This Week in Movie Trailers does. It looks at all of the big YouTube channels for the studios and the streamers, and then within a given week, it will then email you the top 10 most viewed trailers on the internet at that time. So I just wanted to know if I could build it technically. I did look around ahead of time to say, like, has someone already made this? Am I just not seeing it? And I didn't really find anything that was kind of like what I wanted. There was other things that I'd seen where they had like a lot of commentary on the trailers or a lot of commentary about the stuff. And it was a bit like one of those, like when you're looking up a recipe online and then you've got like the chef's life story before you get to like how to make the cookie. And I was just like, and then in building it, I had basically all the email is it has a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 trailers and their view count, and then it has the thumbnail and the view count underneath. And I was chatting to a friend of mine who gets them, and he was like, yeah, I never even scroll past the list. I just click on the list and I just watch what I want to watch based on the title of the thing. So even that like 10 bullet points is what some people are only consuming. So and I also wanted to see if I could make it a fully automated system. Like, could I make something that just runs by itself, which it could do, but at the minute, I still want to have the kind of hands-on control of ironing out how it works and what it does. And it's been really interesting to make it because I've just more because of the data that it creates as it goes, in terms of which trailers are doing what and how things are working and what people are watching. And also just, watching 10 trailers or more a week, just, connects you into what is happening within the industry and which kind of studios are doing well and which projects are coming out that look great. And it's been really interesting. Like things like the Phoenician Scheme, Wes Anderson's new movie that's coming out. It's got a huge number of views, like even more than things like the Fantastic Four,
Wow.
Marvel's thing. So I didn't realize that Wes Anderson was so popular, which is great. It's just been interesting to kind of look at the data week by week. So I didn't think I really answered your question about why I made it. I guess I just had the idea for it, and I just often do things that I have the idea for.
Just do it.
So, and people are signing up for it, which is great. So it kind of ties into like a bigger idea that I'm working on in the background. But in terms of this kind of connecting people with content that's on YouTube. So
not to give away your trade secrets, but how have you been able to gather the data just at the because there's a couple different levels of it. So have you been able to gather and curate the data?
So I basically built a little workflow with a site called make.com, and you can basically just access the YouTube API and make it pull through the data from different channels that you want to follow or look at, and then it literally just ranks the view count. So it's not a complicated system to do, although in the very early days, when I was building it, I was kind of like, I'm just going to ship and build as I go, and if people sign up for it, then there might be a few bumps in the road. So I think maybe it was like the first or second week, this is like kind of back in December, I published it, and I was like, the biggest trailer on the internet this week was Karate Kid Legends, and then it was actually the week that the Superman teaser came out.
Oh yeah,
like, smashed all records in terms of view count, and someone was like, I think you're wrong about that. And I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't put DC on my trailer list, which now, at the time there was like 10 things at the very beginning, now there's like 30. So I'm pretty confident that I'm covered for all of the big channels. But it's still kind of a work in progress. So if people will sign up for it and they've got suggestions, then I'd love to hear them.
I'm also curious. So you were able to spot, when we were talking before, we decided to do this. You were sharing some insights and some trends that were surprising. So what have you seen so far? It's only been a few months, but what have you seen so far that's been interesting or surprising?
Yeah. So I think one of the things I noticed early on is that most trailers, like they, in the first or second week, they'll have a huge spike of views, and then they basically kind of plateau. Even towards, the time that the film is coming out, they'll see some growth, but it's actually just the main kind of spike and then plateau. Whereas a film like Companion, when you look to the data, you can see that it was kind of consistently growing over time, which, I guess is like, maybe is that to do with how word of mouth is playing, and is that an interesting kind of data point to be able to see like, oh, this film's actually growing week on week, or is it when a film that is in theaters for a short time then hits the streaming channel, does it continue to grow because then people are looking at the trailer, although the trailers should be right in front of them on the streaming channel, but I guess people often do look up the trailer for other things. So it seemed like it was word of mouth, because most trailers kind of spike and grow, spike and plateau. But then another thing that I thought was really interesting was the Poker Face season 2 trailer, which had like some huge growth. So they, in its second week, it gained 14 million views, which is which is a lot. Because something like the Fantastic Four gained a lot less in the same period, and they both released around the same sort of time. So that again was really surprising for a Peacock show. I mean, it is Ryan.
Right. How do you say his name? Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson, the director of Knives Out and Glass Onion and The Last Jedi and loads of great movies, Looper. So that's season 2 of his trailer, which so one of the things that the This Week in Movie Trailers also does, so basically each week it sends you the top 10 most watched trailers that were released that week. And then there's also a leaderboard that's tracking across the year the most kind of anticipated projects, so that as they continue to grow. So currently, the Superman trailer is still undefeated at the top of the list, but it tracks the top 20, and Poker Face came into the top 20, which is pretty huge for a TV show. I think the only other TV show that's maybe been in the top 20 was the Squid Games 2. That was also a big hit. But yeah, it gained a huge amount of views.
Are you is this strictly YouTube views, or is it plays anywhere? Like, because or is it just the YouTube views?
So basically, it's just tracking the YouTube views for the main, I guess, the main US channels. So like Universal will have the Universal as the main channel, which the trailers will get published on there. But they also then might have Universal UK. But I'm not at the minute. I'm not tracking and aggregating kind of the views across other channels, partly because they most often don't algorithmically within YouTube. They just don't get the same views. So for example, the F1 trailer with Brad Pitt, the new Formula One movie, which is now titled F1 the movie, that was on both, I'm pretty sure it's both on Universal and Apple TV, because it's an Apple TV movie. But the Universal one got millions and millions and millions of views, and the Apple TV, I think, got like 1 million views. So yet to decide, should I be trying to find a way to aggregate the total views for any trailer released in that week across multiple channels, or should I just focus on kind of the ones where, in YouTube, when it says this is trending and you have like a little trending thing, it'll just be from one channel. So, and most of the time the views that the secondary channel are giving are just there's not sort of significant enough to kind of make a big difference. But the completionist in me kind of wants to be able to say, like, the data set is so robust that yes, this is the most watched trailer on the internet 100%, as opposed to this is like 95% the most watched trailer, because if a channel's publishing its trailers across multiple channels, then maybe it would get some views. But as far as I can see from how the data is showing me what the other channels are getting, it's not really worth doing.
And YouTube also gives some other metrics, like if people watch the whole trailer through, or if they're dropping off at a certain point. Do you track some of that?
Not yet, but it would. I need to see whether the most watched parts of the because there's only so much data that's in the API that's publicly available. So I'd have to see. I think there's like secondary services that will scrape kind of the heat map of like what the most viewed is. But one of the other things that's tracking at the minute is likes and comments. So one of the most commented trailers was Superman was the most commented trailer. Then I think it's Love Meghan, which was the Meghan Markle Netflix thing. That got a lot of comments, but the comments weren't positively correlated to people wanting to watch the show. As well as the when the Disney Snow White trailer came out, that also got a lot of comments.
Oh yeah, because of the cultural, it hit some hot button issues.
So there's kind of, at the minute, there's like a negative correlation to a certain extent between how many comments the trailer gets and possibly how it's not being well received. But
I can speak from experience about that, man. Like, every once in a while I'll get a nice note, hey, that was really great. But if I, especially on my politics show, like, you post something that triggers somebody. Like I posted about this retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, and that, for whatever reason, he triggers people that, like, especially people who voted for Trump. They're like, oh, he's such a lion, and like dozens of comments on that one. Man. So
I guess that's how social media works, right? It's like the divisive, but even if you're not trying to be divisive, just posting about something, then there's people who want to jump on it. So
we have kind of, I guess we have a negative bias in that regard. But actually I should say that this show has been mostly like it's the exception to the exception to the exception of the rule when something negative comes of it. I get a lot of encouraging notes. Seeing folks last night that I had no idea, like some folks that have been listening to the program, and hearing from certain editors, producers, writers, designers, and people that they learn from, from hearing from them. So that was really, really encouraging. or folks that just didn't know about the industry or the craft, that have been listening and learning about how to start their career, or so it's that part of it, I should say, has been really really fulfilling. But
Yeah, it's a hugely valuable resource when you can listen in to professionals speaking to other professionals about what they do. Because I think if you just have, somebody who's outside the industry kind of asking questions to a trade editor, they're just going to ask all the kind of questions that don't make sense to a professional. Is it because they just don't know the nuts and bolts of kind of what to ask and like why certain things are tricky, or so I think it's like when you've got an insider, then it definitely helps to make it interesting.
Yeah. Now, one of my pet peeves is the idea that the people who work on these beautiful pieces of creative genius they're not recognized. There's no credit. Now, this the newsletter that came out, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. I just started to see, okay, how difficult would it be, even for somebody like me, that knows, a good chunk of people in the industry, how difficult would it be for me to figure out who did what? And it just takes a lot of legwork. First of all, you have to know who the companies are. You have to know how to find them. I found that a lot of companies have a company presence on LinkedIn, and they'll do a post on LinkedIn about, hey, it was great working with Netflix on X, Y, and Z. So they'll do it, but again, like it takes a lot of legwork to figure all that out.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
wish there was a way to connect those dots a little bit more readily, so folks can just get credit where credit is due.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's like when you dig into it, you suddenly realize that there's certain editors who've been around for ages. So I remember writing a blog post probably more than 10 years ago about Skip Chason.
Yeah, Skip Chasson, man, he's the best.
And like, just he it was basically about a sizzle reel that he made for Joe Carnahan for his kind of NC-17 version of Daredevil, which never got made. But basically, it was kind of a mashup of like comic book, like still frames from the actual original comic book, and then different bits of like kind of Taxi Driver and all these different things cut together. Where it made this amazing sizzle reel, and it was just so interesting to see something that was kind of like a behind the scenes thing you never normally get to see in terms of a pitch reel that Joe Gannon put on YouTube. And then I looked up like who had made it, and then kind of dug through the internet to find out who it was. I find trailers absolutely fascinating in terms of how difficult they are to make, and just that with every version of one that you edit, you have to tighten the screws, and then once you've got like 50 things working, then the whole thing is working and it doesn't feel flabby at any point. But yeah, it's pretty tricky to do. There's an interesting trailer actually came out today. It was in today's is number one actually today, was the Materialist trailer 3.
Oh yeah,
from A24.
Oh wait, trailer 3.
Yeah, so there's a third trailer. It's like a minute long, which is unusual to have a trailer 3. I haven't seen many.
Sometimes you get it. You get a teaser, a couple of different trailers, especially if they want to treat it from a couple of different. Because I watched 2 so far, and it's 2 very different treatments. The one that's very narration heavy, kind of a throwback in a way, and then the one that's it's a really neat take on another theme, like a famous commercial that was happening. What is it? The priceless theme. So I think Motive did those. I'm not sure if they've done all 3 of the trailers because I haven't looked into the third one. But yeah, really neat concept.
The third one is the one where it's like listing the lipstick as $20. That's the one that came out this week and had 5.6 million views. I think it was this week. And it's interesting with A24 trailers specifically because when I watched the first Materialist trailer, it just didn't. Or maybe it's the one that's just very voiceover heavy, which is like a throwback to kind of like 90. It feels like 90s 2000s kind of trailer style. And I was like, it threw me because I was like, oh, this doesn't feel very A24. Because I think of something like I think it's Eddington, which is coming out, which is like got a really cool kind of social media vibe to it in how it's constructed, and so yeah, but I guess A24 doesn't, as far as I'm aware, doesn't do like a lot of kind of what appear to be like a kind of rom com, not rom com, but like a romance focused thing. A lot of their stuff obviously is more skewed towards horror, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but no,
So so
it's great.
so this week in movie trailers, how do you see it evolving?
Well, I mean, I'd love to get the data set more robust. I mean, I'd love to see if there is, from a business perspective, like a way to monetize it in terms of there's like a kind of pro level which gives you access to the data. So I guess I'd love to find out from people who are inside the trailer houses, like how are they tracking this stuff internally? How are they tracking it across the industry? Is it just kind of like casually interesting? I mean, there's one guy who I know who's a trailer editor, and he was saying, oh, it's like he was saying, it's like fun to see where their trailers are ranking within the stuff that they've cut and like where it's landed within the comparison of YouTube views. So yeah, whether there's like interesting ways to monetize in terms of the data and whether people are interested in the data that's being like collected from the trailers week over week and insights that can be drawn out. But also just love to, get more people watching it and looking at it. And I guess that's like a satisfying metric to see the subscriber count growing. But I mean, yeah, it's like at the minute it's just kind of early days and for fun. So I think I'll probably end up watching a lot of trailers, and then if there's ways in which I can make it more useful to a certain audience, like if it's more useful to a kind of industry audience, or I mean, I think it's the kind of thing where to get to monetize it in a meaningful way, I'd have to scale it massively. That if you've got hundreds of thousands of people subscribed to the list, or then you could say to a studio, hey, like give us the exclusive, and but there's other sites obviously like Rotten Tomatoes and other things which are like way bigger, which obviously do that already. So at the minute it's very early days, and I guess I'm just kind of doing it kind of for fun and just because I could and because I wanted to and because I like watching trailers. And it also doesn't take me very long each week to just press go on the system and then send out the email. So takes me about half an hour probably. So yeah, I don't know where I'm headed with it, but
well, it'll be neat to. I'll definitely put a link to this week in movie trailers in the show notes so folks can find it really easily. There's ways to contact you, and definitely feel free to contact me. It'd be neat to hear from editors, producers, creative execs, and see what kind of information, what kind of data would be valuable for you that you're not necessarily getting. So it'd be cool to hear some feedback. So I want to now we get to have some fun questions. So obviously you like movie trailers, and we've talked about a few current ones that float your boat. What about historically? Are there some of your favorite trailers historically that really stand out for you?
I mean, I guess as a kid watching like Jurassic Park trailer for the first time, and then like getting to go to the cinema and watch that. And I guess, I mean, obviously before the internet, I guess my main experience of trailers would have been probably on, when you got a video out of the out of Blockbuster, and then there were trailers ahead of the actual video, or being at the cinema. I think still going to cinema these days, like watching trailers at the cinema is still one of my favorite things to do. Even not as much as watching the movie, but like very close to it, because you just get to see what's coming out, and it's just exciting. But yeah, I think one that pops into my head is probably Jurassic Park, or the Matrix trailer when that came out.
Yeah,
I remember.
Actually, I saw Phil DeCour just last night.
Cool.
When he was at Geronimo in New York. The original Matrix trailer.
But you must have a kind of encyclopedic knowledge of both trailers and who cut them. Like you must know so many kind of classic trailers and who made them.
Well, partly just from doing this, but really this is this program in a lot of ways is just a recording of what I've been doing since the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And that is when from day one, actually it relates to something we were talking about before. From day one, when I started doing this, I didn't want to be too concerned about the result, but I did figure that getting to know the people who made up this business is really where the value is, because the
Mm.
people are the value of the industry. So what I would do is I just wanted to meet one new person for lunch every day, right? And then it became one new person for lunch and a few people for dinner each week, you know. And what I would do is I would just like get to know them. Like, hey, where are you from? How'd you get into the industry? What have you been working on? What are your campaigns? Who do you work with on the client side? And, so getting to know them. And it was a really cool way because it was just getting to know a person, and then getting to know their work, obviously. And then over time, kind of developing like a sense of who the shops were and who was at the shops, the rosters of the shops, and who was doing what. So, yeah, and then continuing to do this when we started this show in 2019, it was very much similar to the lunches that I was having. I was just sharing it with everybody. Um, so that's been really cool. But yeah, part of it is just like I fucking love trailers. So so wanting to be like a fantasy league geek in the trailer world was just pretty cool. Um,
Do you have
that's
any?
cool. That
Do you have any
that
standout trailers that stick in your mind as kind of
You know,
classic?
I was trying to think like what is it about trailers that stick with me? Because yeah, when you say that, the one that's standing out for me right now is what was the Bob Dylan movie? Uh,
Oh, with
A
Timothy
Complete
Chalamet,
Unknown.
a
Yeah.
complete
So
unknown. Yeah.
I com um the pieces that I saw for that, but part of it was just I think part of it was that the music and the time.
Mm.
So I'm a sucker for uh, moments in time, semi-historical movies, uh, and definitely the music. But I think also, I guess I'm also, when it comes to trailers, I'm a sucker for restraint. So the
Mm.
first piece I saw was just that one, basically that one tune that was that that I think it was Hagedorn that did it, Craig Hagedorn, that was doing it. That he just kind of let it, like, kind of pull me in, kind of hypnotize me and pull me in. So
Mm.
that's one. But I'm trying to think more broadly, like, what is it that really resonates with me about trailers? I
Mm.
keep on going back, and it's funny because I had Kevin Childress and Craig Hagedorn on together, but Childress's piece that he did several years ago, Detroit, like that silence at 10 seconds or so of silence, it seemed like forever, because it was being played in the middle of a lot of bang bang action trailers. So that 10 seconds of silence to start that trailer caught me. Um, but then others that may always make it to the best of lists. The stuff that Chad Meisner has done, Social Network, Little Children, of course. Woolen and his whole team have so many great trailers. Um, so yeah, a lot of those come to mind. And then freaking Tommy Pitt, Tommy Malatesta, uh, all the stuff that he's doing for A24. He's just creating. He's he's taking a lot of influence, say the stuff in horror that Bill Neal. He's just such a virtuoso in horror, as well as other genres. Like when Bill steps out, he's kind of like Stephen King. When Stephen King does something a little different than his typical horror stuff, it's just so profound. So Bill's able to do that stuff as well. But I think Tommy is being influenced by other virtuosos in like sort of adjacent genres, and he's taking it
Mm.
to a whole other level. So a lot of the stuff that he's done for A24 has really resonated. But yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
I could probably keep on going.
I think it's one of the things that's so interesting about trailers is that they can be kind of like we're saying with the A24 stuff for the materialist, where it's like a kind of throwback to a different era of trailers in terms of there's kind of every now and then it'll come along a kind of I don't say genre defining, but like a kind of it will just so that I was thinking of the trailer for uh oh is it I think it was is it Suicide Squad, which had the Queen track, and it was like it was
Oh,
all cut to the sound, all of the sound effects and things were cut to the music in a way that was so utterly on the beat and utterly rhythmic, and I think then you saw a whole bunch of other trailers that kind of mimicked that
yeah, yeah, yeah. They
vibe.
all
Or
influence each other. Something works. Well,
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
that's like that is it's kind of what happens. Like uh Chad Miller at AV Squad sometimes talks about when he first got his shot. It was he did a couple of great pieces before they really came on the scene and blew up as a company. Um, he did the Vantage Point I forget if it was a teaser or a trailer, but that was really kind of groundbreaking the way he treated that movie. It was kind of a hard puzzle to solve, but that got him onto the first Fast and Furious movie, and he ended up finishing that first trailer. And then what happened was, so this is why something like that happens, like a trend, if you will. Chad had
Mm.
heard that there were a couple of key creative execs that were calling their regular vendors and saying, "Hey, did you see that Fast and Furious? I want something along the Fast." And so Chad, being, he's just such a friendly, winsome dude, like he called those guys. He's like, "Hey, I'm that guy. Would you just give us a shot on the, the
Yeah,
Star
yeah,
Trek and um, and so, but that's how it happens. Is creative execs will see something and they're like, I think a treatment like that can really work on a campaign that they're working on, and they'll ask the vendors that they're working with to, maybe give it. I'm really kind of oversimplifying here, so I hope I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
offending anyone who might be listening to that process, but that's often how it happens. Um,
yeah, yeah.
well, that's pretty cool, man. I could tell you really love trailers. So I don't know um, if you would have any insights into this, but I'd be interested if you did. Um, do you have any sense of where you see the trailer industry, or just maybe creative post production, creative advertising evolving over the next year, 3 years, 5 years?
I mean, I feel like I was definitely kind of mansplaining from a kind of uninformed perspective. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see and to think about the fact that you know, will what impact will AI obviously have on trailer things, and also just will there be? I just wonder whether we'll end up having more kind of what's the word? So like whether they'll just so obviously that if you make a movie and it plays in China or Dubai, they even does change the whole movie right to fit the audience. So with Oppenheimer, they famously CG'd in a black dress on a naked woman to make sure that it went down okay with that audience, and whether there'll be kind of personalized trailers in terms of for different demographics. Everyone will end up seeing different things because you can obviously do that with the internet. You can make sure that this trailer is seen in this way by this group of people. So whether you'll get more kind of a segmentation to get more people to watch things. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I mean, obviously we've had the whole trend of the 5-second trailer before the trailer
Yeah,
plays on
yeah.
YouTube, which I think is thoroughly annoying when you get like when it like plays an ad for the trailer that you're trying to watch, and then you watch the 5-second trailer before the trailer actually rolls of the
Yeah.
trailer. It's like, I just want to watch the trailer. Give me this trailer. So that's an interesting question. I mean, one of the things I think it'll be interesting is whether obviously YouTube is the biggest streaming anything, like all of the streamers combined, it's bigger than everybody. So it'll be interesting to see whether specific YouTube channels will get into creating trailers for their content ahead of time, which obviously sometimes they do. And obviously now you also have kind of announcement trailers for the trailer coming out. So
Yeah.
whether we'll see, people who are, whether, over time I should start adding bigger channels where they might then have a trailer and that might get millions and millions of views before the next Mr. Beast whatever drops.
Right.
Because I mean, it's interesting. Having young kids, there's this whole thing called Skibbity Toilet, which Michael Bay is turning into a movie. I don't know how. I haven't seen a single frame of Skibbity Toilet, and I probably never will. But apparently, it has like 35 billion views across the series. Like, so it's like.
That's the Seth Rogen character on the studio. That's happening right now with the, what is it called? Skippity Doo?
It's Skibbity Toilet. It's basically like this animated series on YouTube. I haven't watched any of it, but it's like heads coming out of toilets, and then there's
That's
like
kind of like taking Baby Shark and making a movie out of it. Baby Shark. Like,
yeah,
no.
exactly.
I heard it once. That's good. We're done.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, Michael Bay is set to direct it.
Oh my God.
There's big VFX artists like sign up to do it. I mean, if you've
Okay.
got an audience that wants to watch something that's got 35 billion views,
Oh man.
then but so I think one of the things, so Michael Choney, who runs Strata.tech, who used to run Light Iron and worked for Panavision and worked for Frame, like his whole thing at the minute is that is the industry having to evolve, and actually some of the YouTube channels and some of the which have got bigger views and big mainstream TV shows, like can talented post-production people, talented people who want to work on kind of prestige film and TV stuff, like can they be applying their skills to their channels, because they're making and they have the budgets for content that's just as big and just as widely viewed. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, personally, I hope in even 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 100 years, we're still making films the way we've always made films and TV shows, and a human being made it with their human hands in front with other human people, and they collaborated together in real life together to do it. I think it'd be deeply sad if we lost that. So
I have hope for the human race, man. I have hope for the human. I was talking about this with Yuhei Ogawa, who came on a few weeks ago, and he's a brilliant trailer guy, but he also has Creative Kind, creative.kind. Remember that if you didn't listen to that episode, go and listen to it, and go check out his podcast too, because it's about basically kindness and the creative process. But he had this great question, like what is art? I forget if we talked about it online or if it was just when we had lunch together, but what is art? And there's something about human expression. Like AI can make something beautiful, right? Can make something pretty, can make something aesthetically pleasing to the eye, right? But there's something about the soul of a human being that is an ineffable and inseparable part of creativity, of creative human expression. So I don't think, no matter how sophisticated AI gets, I don't think there's any replacement for that, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I wrote I think it's one of the best things I've written on my weekly newsletter, which is called Cut Daily. Whether anyone else would agree, I don't know, but it was basically called like how to be great in the age of AI, and it was looking at that question, like what is good art? And I was kind of arguing that we're in the kind of clip art age of AI, right? So clip art in the 90s was like, if you were going to use clip art, you weren't ever going to hire a designer. Like it was good enough. You could just copy and paste it and you could make something that looked pretty awful, but that was clip art, right? So nowadays, people who are using AI to create things, it's like far more sophisticated. It looks far better. But they probably still aren't the people who would be hiring a designer to bring their humanity to the thing and be able to collaborate with them and all that sort of stuff. And I think with AI, it's like with great art, basically, the more you look at it, the more there is to find, the more there is to see, because there is a human being on the other end of that who, so one of my favorite authors, Neil Stephenson, he talks about how idea having is not great art, right? So people come up to him all the time and say, hey, I've got an idea for a book. I'll tell you the idea, you write the book, and then we'll split it 50-50. And he's like, that's not how it works. Like, that's not how books get made. That's not how movies get made.
Yeah.
Like the art is in all the micro decisions, like the density of micro decisions of putting these words next to these words on the page, followed by those words, followed by this paragraph, followed by this structure. It's all of the paintbrush strokes and all that stuff. And AI is just printing it out, kind of in a prefabricated like slab. The more you look at AI art, the less there is. Like the more you see the mistakes, the more you see.
It's interesting you say that, because a lot of editors that have finished a lot know that V1 that's only that's only a part of the job, but getting from V1 to the finish, which could be dozens of revisions and versions later, that's a whole other part of the job, but it's a necessary part of the job. The mechanics of getting it from the idea, if you will, V1 to the finish line. And it requires the ability to really tackle both. So that's a really good point.
And I think on that point, I think that, as I'm sure is your experience, is that people work with people they want to work with. So there's like just the whole part of enjoying the process of working with that person. And if, and the jokes and the banter and the, like doing life together makes working with somebody meaningful. So, if you strip out that part of it and it's just prompting your way to, so it's like, then why would you bother doing it? It's not going to be an enjoyable meaningful process
So
in the same way.
I've been telling folks that ask me, "Hey, are you still doing the headhunting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm doing it a lot different these days." Well, what's different? Well, I'm basically only working with people I want to hang out with anyway,
Yeah,
which means that like I don't know if should even say this out loud, but like there are folks in the past that I'm just like, "You're an asshole. I don't want to work with you." You know, actually, I
yeah,
should say that that's a rare occasion. This
yeah,
industry
yeah,
does have a lot of just really good, decent people. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, so I'm hanging out with people that I just want to be friends with, and we happen to be doing some business together. Um,
Excellent,
so
excellent.
here's where you get to turn the tables on me. What questions do you have for me?
Yeah, well, so I mean, I'd love to hear your experience of working with editors and um, like what is your um I guess identifying marks or identifying features in an editor that you think, oh, this person is somebody who I want to get behind, who I want to recommend, who I think has got a future to them, especially if they're kind of new. So I guess in my head, you're Brad Pitt in Moneyball. So, which you're out there finding the talent that maybe is underrated or underseen or just needs some nurturing. Like, how do you scout? How do you find? What do you see in somebody that you think, oh, this person is going to be
So
top?
it's not. So first of all, it's not a one-way street. Like I'm not looking necessarily for the talent and then finding a home for the talent. That happens, but it's there's there's the company is involved as well, right? So whether it's a studio or a streaming company or an agency, a trailer company, um, uh, there's all of that involved, and for anyone. For anyone, there's a home for someone, depending on what their virtues are personally, what their virtues are creatively, what their virtues are professionally. So it's a really, and that's why I like to get to know people more than just looking at their resume. Because frankly, I am not the best judge of aesthetic quality. Somebody who's been in the trenches and knows what it is in a tactile way to create a great piece of creative advertising. Like I let them tell me if it's good. What I can tell is, you know, when a person there's occasionally there's someone that I know I can't help.
Mm,
So, for example, when I say, "Hey, man, if you were to consider making a move, what would you be looking for?" And the first thing that they say is more money. Usually, I can't help that person. But if they say, "I'm looking," I'm really inspired by the work that's coming out of what fill in the blank shop, and from afar, I just love every piece of work that comes out of there, you know, or it's a genre thing and they're stuck in rom-com land and they want to be an action cutter, or they've developed to a certain point, but they want to develop some more creatively and professionally. Like those are the kinds of things that resonate with me, and like, oh, cool, I can help you with that. Also, knowing the environment at different shops, like certain people thrive in different types of environments.
mm.
Certain people thrive with a little bit more competitive juice. Certain people thrive when, it's the equivalent of just a warm blanket, So knowing that part of it. So that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more of a dynamic fit as opposed to, oh, that's a talented guy, or woman or whatever, I'm gonna get behind them.
Mm.
So it's more of like solving a human puzzle. That's kind of how does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, totally. That makes complete sense because it's about, yeah, you can't put a square peg in a round hole type thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it has to fit.
So what is the person looking for? What do they bring to the party? What does this company need? And a lot of times it's not even like something. It's not even something where a company puts out a job description and puts an ad on one of the job boards. It's not even something like that. It's like when you're working with the head of a company or the head of a division at one of the larger studios. A lot of times it's like, oh yeah, you guys are falling short in this area, or you don't have enough help in this regard, and it's almost like, oh, I know somebody who we should talk to about that. And whether they
Mm.
create a job or not, at the very least, maybe there's a conversation there and they could solve that problem. But a lot of times it does end up where, oh, I guess we need, we should create that executive director for blah, 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 or, creative director, editor, whatever it is. They'll create the job because they realize, oh, now I've articulated what our need is, and then there's a people solution for that. So yeah, it's I guess the shorter answer is it's just kind of a dynamic process of finding needs and goals and finding the matches that address those needs and goals. So
I guess one question I have is in terms of like the geography of trailer editing. I'm assuming that because it's so there's so many people who have a say in how the trailer gets made and which trailers move forward, that it's not a job that people are doing remotely. I'm guessing most people are doing it in person in a shop, like in town, like in LA or in New York or in Atlanta or those things. Like, have you seen, like, would it be possible to be an amazing trailer editor in, I don't know, Madrid and be kind of hired into that world, or is it kind of you just have to be in the geographic location to kind of even stand a chance?
the answer is it depends. So it's more possible now than it's ever been, but
Mm.
there really is no replacement for being there.
Yeah.
And I do take note that some of the best companies that are doing the best work really emphasize having folks together in person as much as possible. Because if you look at how some of the best editors in this case really hit their stride, they were in places where they finished their day's work, but then there was some great editor in the bay down the hall that they would just sit in on, that you just pop in on, or they would bring that editor, just like get up and bring that editor down. Hey, could you take a look at this? I'm running into a bit of a wall,
Mm.
creative block here. Help me out. And listen, you could sort of do that through Zoom and hey, could you hop on a Zoom real quick? But it's just not the same as actually being there, right? So
Yeah.
there used to be a lot more obstacles because security was a really big issue, but COVID sort of forced us as an industry to figure some of that out to retain it, just as good, if not higher, barriers to proper security protocols. So it is more technically possible now, but I still think, especially for folks that are, at the earlier stages of their career, there's just no replacement for being there.
Yeah. Yeah. Move to where the work is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's also interesting that so many, seemingly so many successful trailer houses will, have multiple physical locations in
yeah,
multiple cities, because that's, you have to just be where the people are and be where the work is. And
yeah. There's
yeah,
a number of LA-based shops or shops that started in LA that have,
yeah,
London
yeah,
offices, New York offices. And then there's the opposite where a company like Zealot, I really admire their trajectory where they started overseas. Well, overseas to me. I forget if their UK office was the first office or if their New Zealand or Australia office. I forget where they started, but before they ever got to LA, they opened a New York office, and then they opened an LA office. So it's been they went about it in a different way, and I think that's a real great success story. Part of it is just the persistence, resilience, and just basic decency of the fellows, the folks who started that company,
yeah.
and now a bunch of the folks who are there now that have really taken it to a whole other level. So I applaud them. But that's a little bit unique. It's the LA companies that have gone elsewhere that's more typical. So
Yeah, yeah. I guess my last question, would be, given how many businesses you run and how many people you probably manage and oversee and all those things, are there are there um things that you've learned in one business that's then helped you in your headhunting business in terms of, I guess, or maybe you alluded to already that I did, maybe it's the other way around, but things like being able to foresee an issue or foresee a need in a company and then be able to find a solution to it. Like, have you seen the overlap in just how businesses run?
yeah,
Or
it's funny because a lot of as different as residential and commercial services, cleaning, window cleaning, pressure washing, mobile detail, is very, very different than running a trailer agency. But there are certain equations, for example, that work. Like as when you have talent, you have to be able to figure out the multiple that you need to bill your clients in order to not lose money, and that those multiples are pretty consistent across very, very different industries. So that's interesting. But I also find that what I'm learning about managing and leading people and nurturing people in their careers and their life development, there are definitely a lot of parallels. So when I'm talking to, the owner of a small to large, to mid-sized agency, some of the problems that they're running into, especially given the turmoil that we've faced just in the world over the last 5, 10 years,
Mhm.
that there are lessons to be gleaned from the multitude of mistakes I've made from managing and leading folks. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of crossover, and in some ways it helps because it gives you a perspective of being able to like when you look at something from a completely different angle, or in a completely different context, like different industries, it helps to glean what the actual truth is, what the actual wisdom to be drawn from it is. So yeah, it is interesting having very different businesses and very different industries.
It's super cool. I mean, yeah, it seems there's also a whole trend on YouTube of like people and entrepreneurs getting into quote unquote kind of boring businesses like window cleaning or pressure washing or those kind of things, but also removals or like storage locations and that sort
Yeah,
of stuff. So
yeah.
um there's yeah, which and making exceptionally good money doing it because you're also safe from AI, right? Like
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
is not it's not going to come and wash your windows for you. So
Although drones can. We're working on that. So
a window cleaning drone, cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's been a challenge for me because one of the burdens that I had in starting a window cleaning company is I wanted to have everything in my life have a sense of meaning, deeper meaning, right? So every window pane I watch, I'm like, oh, like just the pain of my existence, if you will. But it forced me to appreciate what's called the sanctity in the mundane. You know that there is to find the to find a sense of meaning and purpose
Hmm.
in what looks like something that's really unsexy. And I
Yeah, yeah.
found a few things. One is just being a part of the local business community and developing relationships with my neighbors. Being able to provide a service. I'll give you one quick story. So, one of the coolest things was a dude wanted to surprise his wife. It was her birthday. He's like, I need you guys to be here right at 4 o'clock, and I need them to be absolutely, definitely done and completely gone by 6 o'clock. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, we can. He's like, no, 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 I need them 4 o'clock and done by 6. We got it. We'll do it. And so the guys came. They did the whole house. They really spiffed it up. And then he calls me. He calls me a couple days later. He's like, "Dude, that was awesome. They came right when they said they would. They did such a great job. My wife came home. She was so happy." And he goes, "I won't go into details, but all I'm going to say is I got me some lucky that night." I'm like, "Yeah, baby, I got a dude laid. That's awesome."
That should be the strap line right to the business. That's like get
Yeah.
windows
So
clean, get laid.
yeah.
And it's like happy wife is a happy life. I
That's right.
mean,
That's right.
can't go wrong.
So
That's you should do that around Mother's Day, right? You should have a big marketing push
yeah,
for or
something
like
like that.
yeah, or like I guess if like people are going away on holiday, it's like you could schedule it so that when they come back, it's nice and clean for them, or
Yeah,
I don't know, different things, Christmas time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I guess part of my this is completely off track, but one of my things I often think about is if I could start a business, I'd love to start a business that just employed a lot of people, because I think we're made for work, right? There's a dignity in work, and when you see people who want to work and don't have necessarily skills that they can apply because of whatever life circumstances have happened to them, it's like how can you create businesses that like anyone can do, but they can actually thrive and flourish in, and they can have the dignity of a good hard day's work and feel like they've contributed something to the world and they've made a meaningful difference. And I think like a window cleaning business actually sounds like an amazing way to bring people into contributing to society and making a difference. Whereas so many businesses seem to be like, hey, we could have $1 billion business with like 4 people and AI or something. It's like, well,
Yeah.
but then like, is there as much meaning in doing that? And
I gotta
yeah.
say that's like arguably the most rewarding thing about especially C Spot Go. We've created opportunities for young people, um,
Mm,
you know, and a number of folks like my partner, who's been with me for over a decade. He's now my partner, but like I said, he started in sales. And other guys, that start out as juniors, just learn, never washed a window in their life, and learning this trade, and then learning other aspects of the business. Getting to a point where they can be a foreman of a whole crew, learning the sales part of it. Just technicians that are going to business networking meetings, learning just different aspects of business in addition to being great at what they do. So that's really cool, seeing guys' development. We used to think of, this is going to sound maybe too highfalutin or philosophical, but Brandon and I, when we were really getting to the point where we were hiring other folks and expanding the crew, we wanted to do business as ministry. Not to like preach the gospel or anything to people, but like we treated the guys like we were charged with being stewards of that part of their life. So we wanted to minister to them in a way that we could help them grow and develop, if only in professional world, something as simple as like showing up on time, not smelling, just stuff like that. But that's been super, super rewarding.
Amazing.
Yeah. Didn't expect to be talking about all different stuff we've been talking about, but this has been super fun.
Definitely. I've really enjoyed it.
Before we go, Jonny, how can folks find you online and certainly learn more about This Week in Movie Trailers?
Yeah, so This Week in Movie Trailers is easy to get to. It's just at movietrailers.pro. And then there's my blog, which is at jonnyelwyn.co.uk or .com, both work. And then there is my weekly newsletter for editors, which is called Cut-Daily, so cutdaily.com. And yeah, if anyone's got feedback on This Week in Movie Trailers, or once they sign up and they enjoy it, then I'd love to hear from them. And especially if they're in the business and can give me insight into what would make it more useful, or what's good about it or bad about it, or if there's a way, like you were saying, to be able to connect which houses are doing which trailers, that would also be fun. So I'm always open to feedback and emails, and that would be great.
Awesome, terrific. And we'll be sure to put those links in the show notes so you're even easier to find. You can just click on those. Well, thanks again for doing this, Jonny. It's great getting to know you, great getting to know your work a lot more, and definitely hope to keep the conversation going, man.
Yeah, definitely, Corey. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise as well. It's been really interesting.
You bet. And as always, make sure to rate us. Go to our Apple podcast page and rate Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. Definitely leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. It really does help us in the rankings, so more folks can be part of these conversations and participating and learning all this new stuff from all these cool people. Follow us on all the socials. I'm really easy to find. I am at Corey S. Nathan. That's at Corey, S as in Sam, Nathan, at Corey S. Nathan. And definitely check out our awesome sponsors, the Golden Trailer Awards, Brent Allen Hagel, Trailer VO Brent, and Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. Really grateful to all those folks for helping us keep the lights on. Thanks again for joining us. Now go do some inspired work.